If that wasn't a nightcap for you, I don't know what was.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, so we're live?
Yep.
Woo!
Yep.
Whee! Well, almost live?
We're all live.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
How's everybody doing?
It's just the gang here, Brandon, Michael, Nick, and me.
And Norm.
Norm.
Our fearless leader.
Well,
that was good. I like that jam. That was kind of funky. I know I was a little sleepy Saturday afternoon, but it was funky.
you know,
yeah, it's good.
That's what we do.
You know, we make this shit up as we go along. So
What did you say?
nothing. Boss.
What are you guys all playing?
Because we try to not use profanity around
I
here.
didn't fucking say anything, dude.
It's fucking all right with me, but I mean,
YouTube is gonna demonetize us.
yeah. All right. Sorry about that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Cut us off.
Anyway, straight.
Sorry, kids. It's not.
What are you guys
My
playing?
fault.
G-rated anymore.
I'm English. It's my fault.
Yeah, Norm, what are you playing?
Well, I'm playing this bass. It's kind of a cool thing. This is a refinished stack knob jazz bass, and this bass was actually bought by Little Richard from my old band.
Really?
And what happened was we were playing at a party.
He was your manager, right? Wasn't
Richard was our
Yeah.
manager, and actually his brother Peyton was our manager.
he? Really?
And we were playing for Warner Brothers president Mo Austin's son.
Wow.
And we played at a party, and we had another early jazz bass, and somebody ripped it off at the party. This is when we
Really?
first came out to LA, and Richard felt bad because, you know, he asked us to
His
do this
gig,
thing, and he ended up buying this bass, and he gave
Wow.
it to us to
Wow.
replace the
So
other
it's been in the family for a
It's-
long
I've had
time.
this bass for must be 50 years or
Wow.
close to
Holy
it.
moly.
Almost 50.
That is so cool.
So Stack Knob Jazz, they made those from what, 58 to 60?
You know, maybe the end of 58. I'm not sure what the first year was, but generally through about 60. By mid 61, they were already in the 3-knob.
Right.
So this, when they call it a stack knob, it's got volume and tone
Concentric
for each
pulse.
pickup. And later they had the 2 volumes and the 1 tone.
Right.
So,
But that's still like the most desirable. I mean, people
yeah,
want
it's a
Stack Knob.
great bass. And these holes over, whether there was a cover over here and here,
Yeah.
but they had individual mutes that a lot of guys used to use to
Wow.
kind of deaden the strings.
That James Jamerson kind of.
Yeah, you know, so it sounded a little more string bassy,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And Brandon, you are
This
using
is a 1963 ES330 single pickup, nickel P90, right? Right in the
Mhm.
middle of it.
yeah.
It's pretty simple guitar, fully hollow, unlike a 335, which would have the
Still has the
block
wide
going
neck
down the
over
middle.
here, though. too.
Yeah, 65, right? That's when they did the switch to the.
Generally, mid 65, they started getting narrower.
Yeah, so this is still the wide nut on this one, and it plays great. These are super lightweight guitars.
How wide are your
so-
nuts, Brandon?
How light are my nuts?
Yeah.
Pretty light.
Okay.
They're going to demonetize us again.
Oh, here we go. Number 2. All right. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, this is just a really clean one.
Michael, you're playing a
1956 Gibson ES350T, kind of like the Chuck Berry kind of vibe going on. But look at the top on this thing.
It's crazy.
It's
What a
outrageous.
piece of wood.
Yeah, this is just a beautiful guitar.
Yeah.
Got those 2 P90s, and but yeah, I love it. Sounds smooth.
So it's like the
Yeah.
shorter scale length and all that,
Yeah.
you know. So
And these are getting harder and harder to find, aren't they? With the
all the cool vintage stuff is getting
split
tougher and tougher to
parallelogram
find. Yeah.
inlays and the flame.
Yeah, it's not as
Yeah,
wide
Little
as an
shorter
L5,
scale length.
so you can reach
Amazing.
around it. a
You know,
little
kind of like similar to a Birdland. The Birdland had the ebony board,
Right.
the flower pot at the top, and it had a spruce top. And the 350T has the maple top with a rosewood board and the crown at the top as opposed to the flower pot. And Nick, you're using what? A cool custom shop?
Yeah, we just got this in a couple hours ago, I guess. Never picked it up before. I love this color on Stratocasters. I have one that I got from you a long time ago.
And why is that? No, I mean Hank Marvin. You know.
I guess, yeah, this is a Fiesta Red. I just think they look cool as the shit
They do.
in red with the maple and the white. I think Hank Marvin probably subconsciously has a lot to do with it.
Yeah,
He-
it seemed like those guitars over in England back in the day, they were taking a lot of other guitars
was
that were
it.
shipped to them in Sunburst, and they would paint.
He
over
was
them
our
to do
Les
the-
Paul, I
Yes,
guess. Yeah, he was the cat that was doing everything with the fantastic guitar sound. And a lot of people, I mean, everybody from Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page on down copied Hank Marvin, absolutely. Who
That
started
one
with
has
one.
factory big frets too, right?
Yeah, it's got nice, big, wide, bluesy frets. So this is Fiesta Red as the proper name for it, but in England they were known as salmon pink because I think now you mention
Kind of
it,
pink orange.
Hank Marvin probably said, "Well, it's this salmon pink color," and that's what everybody knew it as.
Yeah.
And the neck
Yeah.
on that one is really nice.
beautiful, nice and stratty.
So thank you guys for watching this nonsense. And I know, we've had a lot of questions sent in from the last time we went live.
Oh, yeah.
And Jen, maybe you can translate.
we have new questions too. So many people are
Okay.
writing.
Well,
What's the number one seller that goes through the store? What do you guys sell the
man,
most?
obviously there's Les Paul, Strats, Tellys, 335s, good Gibson and Martin acoustics. It kind of varies from week to week. And
those are the staples, really, aren't they?
yeah,
'Cause
they
everybody
always seem to sell. And
the songwriter guitars like J45s and Hummingbirds.
yeah, those things always seem to sell for us.
335s have been really hard.
335s
335s
really high.
been hot.
Again, if I was
Yeah.
on a desert island with one guitar
That's
and
it.
an amp,
Yeah.
if I had to choose, it probably would be a 335 because it's one of the most,
You can do anything on
versatile to
335.
do anything you want.
Yeah.
Which amp would you pick?
For me, if it was one amp and I couldn't have a reverb unit, I'd probably pick a deluxe reverb or Deluxe
or a
reverb or Pro
yeah.
reverb or Princeton reverb. Just they do the trick. They sound great, and it has a reverb built in.
Blackface.
But I
Yeah.
love the old tweed amps and brown amps, but they don't have reverb.
It would depend how big your island was, because the deluxe only has one speaker and this Vibrolux has got two.
That's
too
210.
small
So it's-
island is
yeah.
going to be a
Yeah,
challenge.
who else is on the island and how much you want to bother?
But
But these-
recently, it's
Well, depending who else is on the island, if it happened to be somebody that was a beautiful person, you might not even play at all. But on the other hand, if you're gonna play guitar,
no guitars on the island.
All right, Norm, is there a guitar that you haven't had?
well, the one guitar that's the most elusive guitar in terms of Gibson is the Modern. Nobody has really seen one that's been bona fide as a real Modern, and that guitar would probably be the $1 million guitar.
That's the Yeti of guitar, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's something that's rumored. We know that they made them, but nobody's really seen
And that was part of the Futura series, wasn't it? In 1958, they did the V, the Explorer,
and the
and
Modern.
the Modern, and I think they went to a trade show, and somebody said something about the Modern looking funny, and they just never built it.
Yeah, they were
never went
very
in production.
futuristic for the time. Even solid bodies in general at that time were, was not for the usual person. A lot of the guitar players were playing hollow bodies back in the day, and even a solid body Les Paul or Strat or Telly or whatever, was sort of alien to all those jazz guys.
I was called a Strat a UFO in 1954. That's the weirdest thing to.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then for it to be so classic later, like the staple, it's started off as a UFO, now it's the standard.
And
It's crazy.
Any guitars that you regret selling?
A whole lot.
That's a
Like which one?
It's and again, as I've gotten older, I've had to, in order to buy other guitars, you have to sell guitars.
Wow.
And I've been selling a lot of really nice things, some things that I have my personal collection over the years. And I have a few of my friends who have gotten a lot of them. Joe Bonamassa, in particular, has gotten a lot of beautiful guitars from us, and amps as well. And a number of other friends who have just kind of went, Norm, how much for that one? And, I have to kind of take off my collector's hat and be a businessman every once in a while, and just keep the money flowing. We have a lot of expenses with rent.
What's one that really hurt though?
Oh man, there's so many of them. There was, there's several blonde 335 dots that I sold that hurt. That one jazz master.
Oh, God.
There's one jazz master that I sold that had the anodized guard and the maple neck.
Oh man.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that thing was, it's the only jazz master real one that I ever sold.
Was that the Freddie Tavares?
Yeah, I got it from Freddie Tavares.
Wow.
There was that Stratocaster with the all rosewood neck, and that's another one.
Wow.
Joe bought a couple flying V's.
Yeah.
He bought that, the Amos V, which I had
Yeah,
in my
that was
warehouse for
fantastic.
years,
How long was that in your warehouse for?
maybe 30 years. 30
Really?
Wow.
And
That's
it's funny 'cause
hilarious.
I never did the
Yeah.
research
I didn't
on
know
the
that.
guitar. I knew it was an old V,
Yeah.
and it had like this like a poker chip where you kind of plug in, and
Right,
it was
different
white,
color. Yeah.
and the pick guard was black. And the first thing I told Joe is I said, Joe, obviously this
It's not right.
poker chip here has been changed.
Changed.
Why would they use white plastic here and black on the pick guard?
Yeah.
And so I told him it was wrong, and Joe happened to find a picture of it new in '58, and it had the white poker chip with the black guard, and he found out it was from Amos Arthur Music in Indiana.
There's a
And
picture of
There's
it.
a
holding
huge-
it.
Yeah, he
and
went to the
actually,
shop.
there's a guitar teacher that used to work there, and he got up on the roof of the store and he kind of posed with the
Yeah.
flying V. And Joe flew it back to Indiana, got on the roof of the store,
did the same.
pose. Just kind of really
Amazing.
cool piece of history.
Yeah.
Being full circle. I had no idea
That's
that was
so
in your
cool.
warehouse for 30 years.
Yeah, it
That's
was in there a real
crazy.
long time.
Nuts.
And he found out more about it in the first hour because he's got a team of people that kind of
Well, then it went
research
to
it.
the right
He's
guy.
got Nerdville.
Well, and
his
Joe plays
resources.
them, and
He does,
and he
yeah.
makes them sound good. And
He'll even tour with some of the stuff that he gets, just
Absolutely.
so people can see it in
He's,
person. which
when
is-
Norm was on that, Norm does the blues cruise with him, and
Yeah.
he said, Joe's outside, it's raining, they're at sea, and he's playing a real burst.
Oh,
Well, 59 Sunburst Les Paul.
Yeah.
It
Wow.
started to rain. It was a light rain, and I was standing on the side of the stage. And I was waiting for Mike, his tech, to come over and
Get the
Change
third of
guitars.
$1 million guitar.
yeah,
up there.
and he played it, and
Yeah.
and at the end of the set, I said, he came off stage, and I said, Joe, you nuts? That's a Sunburst Les Paul. He goes, these people pay for me to play.
it.
I'm going to give them the best that I
That's,
can. And
that's the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about him, and he always he plays them all the time, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And as Joe,
and
I
there's a
don't think I
reason why I love
misquoted him
them.
to
They
say they're
sound
meant to be
fantastic.
played. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Joe, how many guitars has Joe bought?
How many guitars has Joe bought? I'm going to have to get an abacus and a calculator. And a lot. I mean,
know
Joe,
what the first one was?
I don't know because I've known Joe
Known
since he was
since-
12 years
yeah.
old.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I guess
Smoking Joe.
Yeah,
So what
I
did he
mean,
buy when he was 12?
well, I don't remember, but I remember he came in the
That's
store. I don't know if
crazy.
he could afford anything at the
Really?
time, but he was in a store in Hollywood and he picked up a guitar, and I think whoever owned the store threw him out. And he was kind of down, and some guy said, "Hey, why don't you go see Norm
Go
out
to
in the
Norm's,
Valley? He'll probably let you play some of the stuff." And I did, and I showed him some really cool stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
That might have been his demise right there. Maybe I showed him some stuff, and then he was like, I got to work
He
hard
always
to get
looks
some.
pretty happy when he's leaving here, Norm.
He does.
I,
He's
I
pretty
don't
happy.
think.
Yeah, he
I don't
loves
think
it.
He's a
missed
happy
about
guy.
it.
I mean, listen, he does what he loves for a living. He has all the guitars that he's ever dreamed of. He's got a huge fan base. People love him, and he's very
Nerdville's the
approachable.
coolest.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Nerdville's the coolest, one of the coolest places I've ever been. Period, amen. Like he has all the old Fender signs,
Yeah.
all the, just so cool.
And
Didn't he
Oh,
give you like
Nerdville.
a wristwatch or
Nerdville
something?
Yeah,
yeah.
he gave me. So when we went to Nerdville, Norm brought me up there too, and he has stuff in like every corner. Like every corner you look, it's just guitar brand stuff.
Yeah.
So I saw this one little watch, which was a Boss overdrive pedal as a watch, and I go,
Promo.
Joe, this is amazing. This is so funny. And so he goes, well, you're the first person to notice that in all the stuff I have. I was like, well, leave it to me to pick out a Boss pedal watch. And he ended up giving it to me.
It's
So,
That was when we
Green,
were
too,
doing the
it's yellow.
documentary.
It's yellow.
Joe was in the documentary, which is coming up.
Yep.
They're working
Yeah.
very hard on it. Lenny Kravitz just did something for it. We've got a lot of really great people that have agreed to take part in that and did it for nothing, and are old friends. And I'm grateful that, I have friends that are willing to do stuff like that.
I have a good question. What is your number one tip for new players?
ooh.
Practice,
Number one-
practice,
yeah.
practice.
Number one tip.
Practice,
Practice.
of course, and I'd say diversify. Like try to listen to all different types, because that's how you kind of make your own style. Because you bring you
Yeah.
make your own soup instead of sticking to one thing.
And I would
Jen.
add too.
Yeah.
Okay, so get to work. Jen.
Stick it in the camera.
Jen's trying to learn, so we're trying to get her to practice. But I would also add to leave the guitar somewhere where you can easily access it. If the guitar is like buried away somewhere where you're never going to play it, but if it's sitting like in a room where you're all the time, as long as
Well,
it's safe.
You're saying
Just pick it
guitar
up.
singular.
Well,
need a
that's if
guitar
you're
in
just
every room at
learning.
least.
If
You need to
you're
learn
just starting
from
off,
Tucci.
I'm assuming
You don't have a
four.
bathroom guitar?
No, I do.
You are?
I have
Yeah, I was
several.
gonna say,
yeah.
Yeah, Forget the Reader's
Mandolin.
You got a
Digest.
burst for this toilet and a
He's-
335 for that
He's got a
one.
bathroom guitar. That's a pretty crappy guitar.
Guitar.
Sorry.
The
It's
bathroom
walnut, so it's
mandolin.
round.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a little playing, and then we'll answer more questions.
Okay.
Playing, we just
Yes.
did, and that's gonna.
We're
Let
already,
him
we're
ask
already
some
20
questions.
minutes in already.
Yeah, I know. That's just gonna make a bill. Yeah. So hit us with some more questions.
All right, do you guys have Acoustasonics available?
Right up there.
Yeah.
Look
In
at
fact, Michael did the Jazzmaster Acoustasonic
Yes, I did.
video for Fender, and he's done videos here with them. What do
Yeah.
you think of those guitars? They're
I
pretty
think they're really
interesting.
nice. I think what's really cool about them is actually going to the last question about wanting to play guitar. That's a great guitar to practice with, and you can play it on the couch. You can plug it in. Everybody knows I like to use the looper a lot. It's great for that because you got that acoustic texture for rhythm, and then you can still solo and bend on it. But it's cool, and you know what? I always have
They're
to take.
surprisingly solid, aren't they?
Yeah, and I have to say, I think
Yeah.
we're getting better and better. And I also have to say, you know, hats off to anybody who tries something different, you know. So I
Yeah.
think Fender's always trying to go forward. So I think that's pretty cool, you know.
And those
They-
pickups in the Jazzmaster, especially, that pickup
Yeah,
sounds
it's
great.
You know,
Yeah.
these guitars,
They're
like what
good.
Brandon's playing, is one of my favorite guitars for the
For
lazy
the same
person.
thing, yeah.
Because you can sit on the couch, play it acoustically without plugging it in.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, sometimes, you know, by the time you go to the amp and you start plugging in, you're doing all
The
that,
moment's
You
gone.
lost it.
you
Yeah.
just figure out, I'm going to watch this next, you know, Mr. Ed episode.
Don't-
Not this guy.
Yeah.
I plug in.
We know you plug in. There's a great video of you with your grandma right next to you. There's this video of Mike just like cranked amp shredding, and his grandma is next to him, like reading a book
His
or knitting
grandma
or
rocks.
something.
My grandma does rock.
Yeah.
She had her 95th birthday this week. So
Wow. Happy
Grandma.
birthday,
Happy
Grandma.
birthday, Grandma.
Happy birthday.
Kicking ass.
All right,
Is her hearing okay and all that?
No, that's
Yeah.
why she likes
Actually,
it.
Can I do a PSA? Talking of hearing,
Yeah.
I've been having terrible tinnitus recently. I didn't know what was going on, and Norm's always it's getting very frustrating for people I work with, and my old lady, God bless her, is the patience of a saint because the TV's cranked all the way up. I've got subtitles up. Anyway, long story short, I went to an ear, nose, and throat guy, and he basically gave me a deep clean. And I feel I've not been able to hear this well since I was 20 years old. I don't think.
Really?
Yeah.
So you hear everything?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I heard
He's like,
that.
all right, I got you.
Yeah. So seriously, if you're having any hearing problems, go to your ENT, find an ear, nose, and throat guy and get your ears cleaned out. Change your life.
I think if you're a musician, you should go at least once a year,
I-
just for a check, just to make sure, because we can really damage our
It's
hearing.
unbelievable how many people have said, "Wow, I never even thought of that."
Yeah.
I'm like, you're a professional. You're a producer. You know.
Yeah. You need your
You probably
ears.
should do that. Yeah.
When I had my ears pinned back, I mean, I had to
okay.
All right,
What
sorry.
did Norm do for a living before he got into vintage guitars?
Well, I was actually a musician in Miami, and I was playing Hammond organ, and I had a band, and that's how I came out here. And you know, it was a meager living. I mean, I don't think you could
That
have
was
fed
with
a
Cashmere.
pigeon on what we made. We actually were pretty
was
popular.
Cashmere,
band.
right?
What's that?
Was it Kashmir, the band?
No, Kathmandu.
Kathmandu, that was it.
And I had a few bands in Miami that I played, and we were popular. And we made, you know, I think at one point I was making $125 or $150 a week. This back in the '60s.
That's good, man.
And I was in a real nice apartment that I paid $180 a month for
Wow.
in a high-rise building. I mean, those were the days.
Is that where
Gas
you
was
started?
about 35 cents a gallon.
Wow.
But
that in
actually, we were
Sherman
riding
Oaks,
horses instead of cars.
Oh, you're talking about Miami?
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
okay.
Well,
That's so
yeah,
cool.
wow.
Yeah, that's amazing. Huh?
I love picturing Norm in Miami in the prime.
The long hair flowing in the wind.
That was you were
It's a
Miami
good scene.
Norman
His
Harris,
shirt
right?
open.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Well,
He's like, I'll take 3 of those. And no one knows why yet.
Well, I got lucky.
Did Eddie Van Halen ever come into the shop?
Eddie came into my old shop,
Yeah.
and he was very cool. And he came in when he first got his record deal. He actually bought 2 Sunburst Les Pauls from me, and he traded me in a '58 Strat that somebody's
Right.
got. And
Yeah.
I don't remember if I ever told him, Eddie Van Halen owned this, because he wasn't.
He wasn't that big, mate, yeah.
You know, and he bought, a number of other instruments. Even he bought a couple Musser acoustics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Which are
Strat
amazing
Yeah,
instruments.
I love those guitars, and they intonate unbelievably.
They
for
do.
acoustic.
The 12
That
strings
Eddie
especially,
bought,
yeah.
I remember, I know he bought a flame top from me in 58 or 59 and immediately took the PAFs out and stuck it in
Well,
something
there was
else.
one of them. There's a story that goes with that.
Yeah, I didn't
because
wanna-
Eddie, kind of liked to
Experiment.
tinker with guitars, and kind of he was a tinkerer. Let's
Well,
say.
Norm, he's in the Smithsonian for doing that, so
For
you get
tinkering.
maybe a little bit of credit.
All
He's a
right.
pro tinkerer.
That guitar made it,
He was looking for that sound. Who was like that too is my buddy Ted Green.
Oh,
Was kind of
yeah.
like that. He used to get like these old Black Artellis and 355s, and he would put phase switches on them.
It's funny. I was thinking
Yeah.
about it today on my lunch break. I was thinking about how many famous guitars have been modded to that player. They mod,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of another guitar today. Like I was reading about Jeff Buckley's Telecaster. He just wanted that mirror pickguard, and it's wired differently. And
Well,
same
yeah.
with Kurt Cobain's Jaguars and stuff.
And like Peter Green with that reversed pickup thing, right?
Yeah.
They
yeah.
just
we just
all
had
these
a
mods
really
that these
cool
guys
high-end
do,
Les Paul.
We just,
That was a Brazilian rosewood flame top killer. I think it was a wildwood.
Yeah, 2018.
And its,
It's
pickups
Peter
reversed.
Green,
yeah,
So.
like Peter.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And my buddy Rick Vito, who I played with out here,
He's so good.
he is like, can probably play the Peter Green stuff as
Yeah.
well as anybody. And he's in that new documentary, by the way, which you ought to check
Peter
out.
Green tribute.
The
Yeah.
Peter Green tribute.
That's
It's really
gonna be
cool.
amazing.
Fleetwood Mac, and he was in our band, and we were doing pretty well out here. And then all of a sudden, Bonnie Raitt grabbed him from our band. And then he went to Jackson Brown's band. Then he went to Bob
Fleetwood Mac?
Seger,
Oh,
and
Bob
he
Seger,
played
yeah.
like a rock. He would play
Yeah.
the slide on like a rock.
Yeah.
And then he went to Fleetwood
Fleetwood.
Mac and
He's
What a
from
career.
Philadelphia,
Yeah.
right?
Billy Burnett. What's that?
Isn't he from Philadelphia?
Yeah,
Rick?
he's from Philly as
So
well,
Yeah.
as Michael and me.
Yeah.
One of the coolest calls I got one day was actually from Rick, and I was home. He's like, "Hey man, I just wanted to let you know I've been playing guitar for so long, and I just got myself my first Jazz Master because of the videos."
Wow, man.
Yeah.
That's
That's
amazing.
cool.
Which was really, really cool.
And,
So,
and let me tell you,
Yeah.
when we played around town with Rick Vito and you used to come out and see the
Yeah.
band,
Oh, yeah.
we had a huge following. People, I
What a
thought Rick was the
band.
greatest guitar player in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
yeah,
And he's one of them, because I mean, he really is.
All you guys are fantastic. That was the LA the
Angel City Rhythm
Angel
Band.
City Rhythm
Yeah.
Band.
So
And
cool.
Matt, that was a fantastic
We were
band.
simple. I mean, we weren't real complicated, and we loved
It
playing
was still
dance
group style,
music.
right? Yeah, it was.
So, I mean, to us, kind of the best thing is playing, and there's just people lined up dancing right in front of you,
it's
just
a
like
stone
sardines.
groove. Yeah.
It was really, really happening.
I remember going to that
The Topanga
St.
Club.
Mark's in Venice.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys, and it was so busy. I could barely get in, man. Yeah, it was crazy.
Speaking
Well,
of, they keep
right,
saying
man.
you guys need to play.
We gotta
You
play.
guys need to play a little
We're gonna
bit,
do
jam a
that.
little
We're gonna
bit.
do that at the end so that you guys can turn us off.
Yeah.
I just want to break.
Oh, you want
We're
to?
gonna-
Yeah.
Okay.
So play a little bit.
I got one. I got one.
Yeah.
Sneaking Sally through the alley in B.
Yeah. In B? In what key?
B.
B? Sure. What kind of key is it?
I'll pick another one though.
Down through the alley.
Yeah.
Seconds.
Yeah, you've never heard that
That's
song.
It's what was that?
Too
Lee
young.
Dorsey or something.
It was well, Robert Palmer did it.
No, but he wasn't the original. It was Lee Dorsey.
Lowell George. Oh, was
Yeah.
it Earl Pop? Who was it? Yeah.
It was Lee Dorsey.
Lee
The
Dorsey.
one he did, yeah. He did sitting in la la, waiting for my ya.
See?
Sitting in la la, waiting for my ya. It may sound funny, but I can't believe she's coming. Hey, pretty girl, don't let me down. tune called "Ride Your Pony," which was another kind of. It's New Orleans. He was a
Can
New
I
Orleans
hear
guy.
that one? Ride Your Pony?
It was like, "Ride your pony,
Hey.
get on your pony and ride.
Yeah.
Pull this thing over.
Ride
That
your
bar.
pony, get on your pony and ride." I don't know what else was there. And Get Out My Life Woman was a lot of them were all kind of similar,
Yeah.
but it was New Orleans R&B and
Yeah,
Good.
all
You
that
know,
second line stuff.
Earl Booker and Professor Longhair and Lee Dorsey and
Ooh.
all those guys, you know,
So good.
just really cool stuff. Very simple, what you can do with 3 chords, you know.
Yeah.
So hit us with a few more questions and then we'll call it a day and I won't bore you guys.
So you know what did Keith
We got
Richards
some
say?
nice folks over here waiting for us to wrap this thing up.
Let's see. What's the most expensive guitar in the shop right now?
Ooh.
Oh,
Ooh.
boy, I'm not even sure about that. I mean, you know, we have a couple really nice Strats that are really cool.
A couple old Martins back there.
Yeah, there's a couple real old Martins. There's a Stromberg Master
yeah.
400. There's
Yeah.
a couple D'Angelicos, some L5s.
Do we still have Bob? Or did we still
Yeah,
have?
We still have Bob.
Bob is a D'Angelico that John D'Angelico made for his nephew Bob for his 13th birthday.
Yeah.
And up at the headstock, there's a
It's-
heart and it says Bob.
It's inlaid in the
So, yeah,
ivory,
so
right? It's
so
pretty
cool.
That's
Gorgeous
expensive, but it's pretty cool. guitar.
certainly most unusual.
How often do you buy guitars?
We buy guitars whenever we can, and we're really in the buying mode right now. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I'm insatiable. I really enjoy buying guitars more than I enjoy selling.
Selling it.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's something that we're always doing here, and we never seem to be able to get enough.
And, you know, we're still, because he's been doing it for a long time, we've all been doing it for a long time. We're in that fortunate position where sometimes something will walk through the door because people know Norm's not afraid to pay up. You
Yeah,
know,
and
yeah.
we
good
don't
money for it.
necessarily do consignment. We try to buy
We try to
guitars,
buy
you know, so a
whatever
lot
we
of
can.
stores want to get them on consignment, and we're willing to pay for them. That's how we get them.
Yeah,
If you have anything to sell, hit us up.
Yeah,
We're
let us know,
always buying.
especially if it's something that fits into our kind of wheelhouse, you know, some of the stuff that we normally buy, you know, Gibson, Fender, Martin, Gretsch, Rickenbacker, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What's the oldest guitar that we have
We
right
have,
now?
I mean, we have a Martin from the 1800s in the back. We've got a couple other Martins in there. I think there's one that's in 1910, another one from 1919.
Yeah.
We have a 1926 00045.
Yeah,
that was
that
top
thing
of the
that's
was
line.
great.
crazy.
It's really hammered, but what a great guitar.
I
Yeah.
think there was a 1902 Martin at some point too.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still here, but
Has Prince ever came into the store?
Well, there's a funny story about that. You know, I don't know if I should tell it, but I will. You know, it's, I got a call one day and it was from, they were at Sunset Sound in Hollywood. And I got a call and I guess it was his tech or whoever his assistant was. And he called me up and he said, is this Norm? And I said, yeah. He said, you know, I'm going to bring Prince in today. And I said, fantastic. I'm a fan of his music and all that. And we started talking. And then he said, but listen, there's one thing. You can't like talk to Prince and look him in the eye. You have to talk to me and then I talk to Prince. And I kind of went, huh? And he goes, no, seriously, you can't talk to him directly. You have to talk to me and I'll tell him what you said. I said, you mean you guys are going to come into my store and everything
Yeah.
that I say is going to be translated
That
by
ain't gonna
you
work.
to Prince and back and forth? I said, I don't
That's
think so.
ridiculous.
And
Yeah.
I said, you know, I can't go along with that. And they never ended up coming in.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, the whole thing was just so weird. I had no
That's a
no
bit
answer to
strange.
that.
That's a
But
bit
I just said,
ridiculous.
how can I possibly
Yeah, it'd be
not
like,
look the guy in the eye
Yeah,
and not
that's
talk to him? It's like,
Yeah,
I've
that's a
had,
little crazy.
you know, George Harrison, Bob Dylan, everybody in, you know, and, you know, they're just regular
Yeah.
people and you talk to them. It was, I don't know if it was the handler's thing or what,
I've
but it
heard
was
that
just
before.
so peculiar.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
A couple of people have met him, and you weren't allowed to speak to him.
it's so crazy. It's like
I didn't know. I just thought it would be very uncomfortable. And I, you know, we're just regular guys in here, and when a lot of the big stars come in, they like when we treat them like regular folk
Yeah.
and not,
They are regular folk. Yeah.
just 100 years from now, none of this stuff's going to matter at all,
Yeah. Puts his high heels on one shoe at a time. I mean,
There it is.
there you go.
They want to hear more playing, they keep saying.
That's a big mistake. Be careful.
Okay.
Actually, Norm, can we have them play a little bit while you just talk to them real quick?
Sure.
Just real
Yes,
quick,
I think that's
So
a good
help-
idea.
yeah.
You guys
Play a little bit, and we'll have Norm talk to these customers real quick.
Okay.
All right, boys,
What do you want to play?
whatever you guys want.
something more complicated that I can't play.
That's what we need our bass player.
You want me to play bass?
Nah.
Play bass.
No, let's
play it.
go.
Yeah, let's watch Limo play bass.
No.
That'll be one.
Let's just not.
Somebody play something.
Okay, you're the guy with double tunes.
Let's go, guys. Woo!
Uh-oh.
Ooh, I'm out of tune.
Here's a tune. We'll each play
This is where we have a meltdown.
Do you want-
See
here.
what happens when the boss isn't around?
I'll play this while they tune.
Oh, jeez.
They're asking if I play, and I say no.
Jen plays. Jen, come play.
No, I'm not playing. Something funky, something groovy. Nothing that's gonna put us to sleep,
All right, let's do
I wasn't listening. I was dozing off.
Keep going.
Mark, we miss you. Have a nice Coca-Cola Classic.
A nice old Coca-Cola Classic.
Howdy in Nashville.
We miss you, Mark.
Give them gorgeous boys a kiss from their
Oh wait,
Uncle
this is
Nick.
my chance. Hey, Mark Ignici, it's Brandon here.
Oh, have you been working on that?
Yeah, every night.
I gotta go. I'm due at the Teen Choice Awards.
All right, Limo, keep going.
I'm out of tune.
I was out of
I'm
tune the
holding
whole
it
time.
down.
All right, Limo's on his own and with Brandon.
Oh, come on.
Might as well be on his own.
I'm all out of tune.
All right, tune up, guys. Norm wants to wait for you. Norm wants us to wait for him.
Norm?
Yeah, he wants to play some more.
I feel like we're falling apart.
Norm was holding us down, man. He was the glue.
I don't want to fall apart. Oh,
There
sorry.
we go.
G.
Do I still have to go?
Yes.
Come on. Just waiting for my boss. Waiting for Norm.
Oh, there he is. You want the bass?
I think we lost them all, Norm.
Hey.
No, they're here.
Here he is.
Here he is.
Pretty woman.
Put a bass. Hey, let's go. Let's go.
All right, let's get back to the talking.
Let's get talking.
And then we're
Before I
going
get
to
walking.
get to the walking pretty soon. So,
Oh, Norm, say hi to Mark. He's on the chat.
hey, Mark, what do you say?
Woo-woo, he's saying hi.
What
Say-
Mark? Mark
Mark
what?
Ignici.
Mark Ignici?
Woo-woo.
Mark, sorry to bother you. And, you know, this could have been you. So,
Aren't you upset?
been you, man.
could have been you, Mark. Send us some more Gibsons from over there.
Yeah.
Woo.
We need some more.
All right, we love Gibson, and
Yeah.
I've made my living on Gibson, Fender, Martin, Gretsch, Rickenbacker. But you know, if it wasn't for Gibson, I wouldn't be doing this, and probably would have never played music.
He says
What's
right
your-
as I grab the Telecaster.
What's your favorite Gibson that you ever? What's your favorite?
Probably Gibson is a blonde dot neck 335. I love that guitar. Joe Bonamassa calls them the burst killers. They just sound so good, and you know, just really great guitars.
What do you? What's? Why that one?
Because it's got properties of an acoustic guitar and an acoustic archtop and an electric, and it's got a block, so you can play it loud like a rock guitar, or you could play it at a lower volume.
Do we
and
have
it could
one
be a
here? Or we
very
don't
good-
have one here.
Not a blonde.
Not a blonde one here, but we. In fact, we
Okay.
sold the ES340 today, a blonde
Blonde one,
yeah.
What year
ES340.
was that one?
That one was a 69.
That's what I thought.
And it's like a
69.
335 with a three-piece neck, and it was wired in the middle, out of phase.
Really nice
Yeah.
checking on that guitar.
Yeah, it's a very cool guitar. And it's cool that we were able to sell it
Yep.
to a good buddy of ours, and he loved it. And he saw the, it was, in fact, it was wired just like his regular 335.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, how do you improve on perfection? So,
We actually sold that guitar just before this live stream. I had picked it up to play it in the live stream, and it was sitting on the couch, and he saw it, and he was like, "Oh, that's
these
rad."
guys
And then
demo
he
a guitar and it just,
and it's gone.
Gone. so, and people are buying guitars like crazy. And thank you guys so much for keeping the store open. I mean, we appreciate you guys buying from us, and we appreciate you guys selling to us too. We always need stuff because we've got a lot of great players that come in here that always are looking for something in particular. So, again, I can't thank you guys enough, and thank Gibson. We thank all the people that have really kept us in business for so many years.
Speaking of Gibsons, how many late 50s Sunburst Les Paul standards have you sold?
Over time,
Yeah,
over my whole
yeah.
time, maybe 40 or 50 of them.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a ton.
But most of them were in the earlier days because when I first started, I mean, this is going to sound insane to you guys, but when they were $800, this is like in the late 60s, people were going, $800? Are you crazy? Nobody would pay $800 for any guitar. Well, then they were $1,500,
Yeah.
and everybody was going, $1,500? You guys are out of your mind. Who would pay that? You could buy a used car for that. Then it was like $2,500. Same thing. Then it was $5,000. Then it was $10,000. It was $25,000. When it got to $50,000, people started going, I think that's probably a pretty good investment.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like, and to be perfectly honest with you, there was a time I had 14 at one time. And I kind of got cold feet because I said, this is insane. People are paying. And this was like when they were 20, 30 grand. And, I just was afraid that maybe I was the last guy that would pay or have it. And look where they're at now. I mean, it could be, for a really killer one, could be $500,000.
To have 14 of them all at once is
All at
just
once.
insane.
And I had some nice ones too. And I had one that I sold to Vic that was, I was building a house at the time, and it was a pretty big house, and the roof was $60,000. And at the time, 50 or 60 was all the money on a Sunburst Les Paul, and I had a really beautiful flaming one. And Vic ended up buying. He called me up saying, "How about selling me that guitar?" And I was just getting a bill for the roof of the house.
No, he hit you at the right time.
That guitar is a $500,000 guitar. Actually, one of the two that I sold to Eddie Van Halen was flamed to death. That would be a $500,000 guitar, forgetting even that Eddie owned it.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Did you keep them all in the warehouse?
I had a lot of them in the warehouse. I always had a couple in the store too.
Wow.
I mean, it was just, when they were $5,000 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of money, but it didn't seem like it is now today.
No.
Today it's like a house.
Yeah.
So.
I just wanted to say, while we're doing all this stuff, this is like, hopefully a typical day at Norm's. While we were here, this lovely couple had come up from San Pedro, I think, with a Standell from the mid-'60s. And you don't really see that many of these.
Yeah,
So
it's a
it's a
very
beautifully
cool
made
artstyle.
guitar.
Well, there's a guy named Kuntz. I think it was Sam Kuntz, and I think he was out of Chicago, and he was the builder and creator of the Standell archtops.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a very cool guitar. It's not one most people know, and that one has
Very
like
cool.
the
That
Gretsch
flame.
type
It's
Diarman
got the
pickups.
Diarman,
Yeah.
the original
It's just a
Diarman
very
pickups.
unusual
Yeah,
guitar,
and these are fabulous pickups. I mean,
very cool art
clarity.
that most people don't know about.
It's really a great build. It's got the Grover Imperials as well.
Mhm.
Standell, I knew more about the amps.
They were known more for their amps.
For their
but
amps.
again, I guess
But
they
this
must
is-
have contracted Kuntz to build these. and
Really
create them,
pretty.
design them.
Wow.
I like the
Not
knobs,
great.
too. These
Yeah.
are really cool.
Yeah.
And it's vivid. I mean, it looks like it's never been out of
The
case,
finish
this
is
thing.
Generally, I think
incredibly
they're
clean.
made in the late 60s. I
Yeah.
believe is when they were making them.
I think it's 67. Yeah.
What is the coolest bass that you've ever sold?
I've sold a few really cool basses. There was a Sonic Blue jazz bass that was almost brand new. There was a 55 precision bass. Check this out. This is a crazy story. I don't know if I told this in my book. There was a lady named Alice Rapati, Rapatti, and she lived in Woodland Hills.
Oh.
And she had a band with her sisters, and they played in Las Vegas. And apparently, whoever their manager was, when they got signed to play Vegas, they got all brand new equipment. And they had a 1955 precision bass, like the one very similar to what Sting plays.
Oh, yeah.
But this bass was brand new. And she couldn't play it because the neck was too big for her hands. Had the hang tags. I sold that to a good friend of mine. I mean, that's one of them. I mean, there's been so many.
Yeah.
And, you know,
That is so fun.
you know, when I think back at it, you know, I regret so much stuff. But, you know, all of that has led to today, and we're still here and all that. So, and I can remember a lot of the people in the stories. I mean, actually, the one guitar that I sold, that Fender Stratocaster with the all rosewood neck.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you guys a hint of what I used to do. I decided that if you went to the Musicians Union, they would give you a handbook of all the players. It was, I would go into whatever town I was in. You know, if I was playing music and I was out of town, we'd go to the Union. I'd get the handbook and I would call people and I would say, I'm a collector, I'm in from out of town, I'm interested in buying guitars. And I'd look for people that maybe had a name that would indicate that there were somebody old, Harold, Chester, you know, whatever, you know, and I would call these guys. And again, I would have to make a couple hundred calls. And all of a sudden somebody said, well, I got some guitars. And some of these guys were paying their Musicians Union dues.
Yeah.
And hadn't been playing for years. And I really ended up getting a lot of really great stuff from that. And that's why I got a lot of the guitars in my book.
What was Marlene's idea about calling?
Oh, Marlene said, well, you know, cowboys play guitar. Why don't we put an ad in the newspaper for wanted to buy guitars under horses for sale? and I said, well done, he says, you know, just try it. You know, it's an ad, you know, see what happens. We got a lot of cool stuff from that too. It was really weird. Some guy called the ad, like, I bought a jukebox, a Wurlitzer jukebox from him. I bought old Martin guitars. Yeah. I mean, again, if you found a guy who had a guitar, a lot of times they had more than one.
Yeah.
So it was, I bought a pre-war D18 and all kinds of stuff out.
Wow.
So you just never know. I mean, you got to be a little innovative and off the path.
Get ahead of the pack.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Goes back to what Nick was saying earlier about just one guitar. Who just has one guitar?
No, it's a neuroses, and I think all you guys probably.
The other thing is, as you go along, and if you've got a few vintage guitars, you realize, although in theory you own them, you're really just caretaking them for whoever's going to have it with.
These things are going to last
Thank
longer
God
than
my
us if
kid's
there's
a
no
musician.
fire or earthquake or flood or whatever, you know. So these things are going to last multiple lifetimes.
Sign of that is like, look at David Gilmour. You know, got rid of his black shred. He could still play, but he's like, you know.
Well, he was trying to do good while he was still around to see him do some good,
but
which is
he's still here, and that's number one. You know, so they move on.
It's the guitars can take on a life of their own almost.
Well, they do, really.
Well, you know, I mean, the thing is that the guitars, again, it's a lot of it is in the hands, but somebody who's got the hands and the mind and a great instrument, a tool to use too, it really opens a lot of doors.
Oh, it no doubt makes a big difference. I do guitar of the day in and day out, and I pay for what the instrument, you know, like it depends on how I play, depends on the instrument.
On what's put in your hands.
Yeah, I mean, some of them, you know, they're just uptight, you know, they don't, or some of them are so loose. And there's a song in every instrument. Yeah, and you got to figure out what that guitar does, and
dig it out.
Same year, same color.
I mean, you know, what Mark Agnesi was doing guitar of the day too. You know, whatever the guitar was, he tried to play the appropriate song or style to go with that. And Michael does that, and all these guys do that. So we try to kind of highlight what the guitar does and what it's most known for.
Yeah. So
I think with that question though, some of the coolest basses you've sold, I still think you have some of the coolest basses.
I still have some. I do.
the 58s.
I've got some
Fiesta
beautiful
Red.
57,
Oh,
58
yeah.
P basses. I've got a Fiesta Red P bass that I
one
love.
is
I've got a
so
few really cool jazz basses. I mean, this bass here, I wouldn't sell this because it has a personal
Yeah.
thing
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me, but it's just a great bass, and it has a special meaning.
I
for
know
me.
recently when we were at the warehouse, when we started getting basses out, and it was like, oh my God, and there was just
Yeah,
more
they're there.
and more.
Don't worry.
Those two-tones. Do
If
you
you
remember
look
those
on the
two-tone
website,
two-tone
sunbursts?
sunbursts,
Yeah.
those are 57 precision basses, which were the first ones were two-tone. In
Ridiculous.
58, they went to three-tone.
Yeah.
And it's all cool and all beautiful. And those were, to me, some of the greatest basses.
I think
ever.
those 58s though, they really hit their. There are periods when Fender was just doing amazing stuff, and
Yeah.
those
Well,
58,
the cool
the
thing is,
necks on those are just
Yeah.
unbelievable.
well, these companies are really kind of realizing that, and I think they realized it years ago when, like for instance, Gibson and Fender, back in the 70s, all these companies from Japan were knocking everything off.
Yeah.
And I think Gibson and Fender kind of realized that people were paying more money for old guitars than their new guitars.
Than the new ones, yeah.
And then Japan was knocking off a lot of the old guitars
Yeah.
and trying to make kind of copies, Ibanez, and a lot of
The Ibanez
companies
rock and roll, the lawsuit
lawsuit
guitars
and all
go
that.
for a lot of
And
money
then
now.
Gibson started reissuing a lot of,
Yeah.
and Fender started reissuing a lot of the old stuff that they did. Because they knew that there was such a demand for this stuff that you couldn't ignore it.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. There are so many instances in the guitar world of them getting it right, kind of on the first try, like the Telecaster.
Amazing, really.
How did they do
It's
that?
amazing.
Just like right off out of the
He
gate.
wasn't even a guitar player.
Yeah,
He was
it's
a
just
radio
great engineering.
fixer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know what? The thing is, it's like the wheel. You make a round wheel, and then no matter what variation
Yeah.
you do, the round wheel works the best.
But
so-
physics dictates that's how that's going to work. I mean, I get what he's saying. They got incredibly lucky
Yeah.
that first go round.
And it was kind of a renaissance at that time.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of a renaissance
Well,
of a
you
lot
see
of
that a lot of
builders
times
and
with
But
boutique
bands,
businesses
too.
now.
you know,
First
Leo
album.
Fender,
Yeah.
when his stuff, because he started with lap steels, but when he was making guitars and amps, he'd often show up at he'd give them to local musicians to play at the local hop or whatever, and you'd see him clag on the stage and be fiddling with the amp while the guy's playing a solo.
And
to-
that's
to
kind of
change-
why the companies did so good, because they were paying attention to the players
Yeah.
and they were listening. They had their ear to the
Yeah.
ground. They were kind of paying attention to what people wanted. And then, as they got info from the players, well, I like
This
this,
worked,
but it
this
needs
didn't
that.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they would kind of dial it in. Like the first Les Pauls, for instance,
Yeah.
had the trapeze tailpiece. And then they went to the stop tail without the Tune-o-matic. Then they went
Yeah.
to the Tune-o-matic, the stop tail with the P90s. And then they went to the humbuckings. When they hit that was kind of perfection in design. And that's, where, why they keep making them. And
Yeah.
people want the earlier one reissues too. And
Yeah.
they all have something cool about them and a different sound. But, they kind of work to perfection. And then what was happening back in the day, a lot of times they were trying to figure out, okay, now we built this, how can we save $5 here or 50 cents on this or whatever? And that's what opened the door for the Japanese companies and
Yeah.
stuff to come in and make them. And now Gibson has gone back and Fender has gone back and Martin and all these companies, Rickenbacker, trying to duplicate what they once did because that
Yeah.
was it.
Yeah, they nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that there's not that many body changes. Like even the offset body, which I'm a big fan of, is still kind of like one of the different ones that hung in there for a
Yeah.
long time. And if you see a lot of these boutique brands, they just can't get, like, the most different they can get is that offset body almost. They
Yeah.
can't get out of these four shapes, and Fender, like the Strat, the Tele, and the offsets.
Well, when you go
Yeah.
to NAMM, which is National Association of Musical Merchants, where all the stores and builders go, there's like 20 copies of a Strat or a
It's
Les
crazy.
Paul or
Yeah.
a 335 or
There's only so
Tele
many
or
things that I
whatever.
guess fit the
I mean,
body.
you can't get away from those designs. They're pretty.
Even the new
It's classic.
PRS John Mayer thing is just a
Yeah.
strap with a three-a-side headstock.
Absolutely.
And they're great guitars.
Somebody said that did Fender and Les Paul work together?
They actually were friendly. They were kind of friendly competitors. And there was a book out that I read.
It Might Get Loud.
Right.
Yeah, fantastic.
And these guys, they were all kind of friendly competitors, but then it kind of got, when the companies got behind it, they had to kind of stay in their own lane.
Yeah. Started getting.
Wasn't It Might Get Loud? That's the other thing. I know.
That was the
I
movie
just read it
with
as well.
wasn't
Yeah.
It Might Get Loud the movie with The Edge and
The Story of Loud.
The story of
Loud.
I know Loud
yeah.
was
And it's a great read.
Yeah. And it was about a lot of these bands playing, and they needed to increase the volume because, when rock became there and the
More and
heavier
more
drum
people
beat
wanted to
and
hear
stuff like
it.
that.
Yeah.
They wanted to hear the guitars. They had to devise some things that work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
All right, last question.
Okay.
What's your favorite guitar, everybody?
Like in the store right now, or
No,
just in general?
in general.
Oh boy.
Out of everything.
Well, I already told you mine, but I mean, there's a lot that I love, so it's really difficult to kind of.
My old
I like
Telecaster.
the 335.
Yeah,
335s?
my old Telecaster is one that I got from Norm. God, 40 years ago, will never leave me.
You got a nice Strat too. By the way.
I got beautiful 57.
Why? Why does it make it? Why is it your favorite?
Because it's this guitar will do everything you ask it to. It's absolutely. It's like, yeah, come on, let's do it. It loves to be played. It sounds amazing through anything, and it's cool. You don't get cooler than an old Telecaster,
Yeah.
I have to say, after doing Guitar of the Day, I think Tellys really shine in vintage specifically.
Yeah.
They're just like a vintage Telly is like.
It's a simple machine
It's,
that works.
but they're just, and that's not even my favorite guitar that they did, but it's just like I noticed vintage Telly specifically.
There's something about
Even more than Strats, I'd say they just they're more consistent. They're always great. But obviously, my favorite guitar is the Jazzmaster.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have to say that a lot of people overlooked the Jazzmaster and the Jaguar, and even things like Mustang and Duosonic and stuff like that. You see Tomo playing that stuff, and he makes them all sound fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I think that what's so cool about the offset is
That's Tomo Fujita.
Yeah. It's
his teacher.
It's an alternative guitar, and it's also an alternative way of thinking. Like I feel like a lot of the good people that picked them up in like the 80s and 90s, you had a lot of new wave bands, you had grunge bands, these offsets started coming out. Obviously, Kurt Cobain's one of the main who was embraced it. But my thing that I loved the most about the Jazzmaster was, like, I was playing Strats for years. I'm like, well, now I feel like kind of like Clapton, Hendrixy, and then there was the Mayerism going on. I'm like, I don't want that. And then I go to the Telly. I like too many tricks. I like to play with the bar. I like to get behind the bridge. I like to do all these things. And the Jazzmaster just made me have no preconceived notion of what I'm about to do. I didn't think like, oh, I'm going to play bluesy, or I'm just going to be me. And that was the coolest thing, because it's not. There's all this room on there.
The other thing was as well, because the Strat and the Telly are sort of the big two. I think the Jazzmaster and the Jaguar were seen as,
Surf
the distant
guitars and stuff
cousins.
like that too.
So you could still
Guitars
pick them up,
sustained.
even though it's been around since '59 or whatever.
Yeah.
You could still pick them up cheap, relatively cheap in the
I
80s.
agree.
So a lot
I
of
still think you can pick up
garage
Jags right
bands.
now relatively.
Yeah, Jaguars are
we have some
relatively cheap,
66,
and you make a Jaguar sound fantastic.
I love Jaguars.
have to tell you.
And I actually, ever since, thank God, Susan got me that guitar that was so cool. But ever since I got that Jaguar, I really realized how great they are. But what's really interesting is how they ended up surf guitars. Because I will say, one of my favorite things about the Jazzmaster, it does have a mellow, jazzy sound when you hit that rhythm circuit, I feel like. So I think I can see the intention. You know what I mean? It's funny how it kind of got looked over, but it's there. I mean, because I definitely like to play chords. I love chords because chords structure songs. And the Jazzmaster, more than the Telly and the Strat, makes me want to play chords.
Yeah. Well, you like
a
those
jazzy
big,
kind of thing. Yeah.
You like those big, wide open chords.
Yeah.
And on
That's part of
the
your style.
Jaguars and the Jazzmasters, probably the imperfection in the design was the
The bridge.
vibrato, the bridge.
I'd say the bridge, yeah.
But yet, you make use out of all that. And then there's people that have the mastery bridge at
Yeah,
the head and
yeah.
other bridges, that kind of hold the strings more in place because they would pop out of
Right.
the
And I've
bridge.
dealt with that. I had to deal with that on my 62 weight one. It's a little tough because I still have the original bridge. But yeah, there were some imperfections. But I mean, you do see, as a lot of people know, you do see people like Hendrix played them a fair amount. I mean,
Yeah.
he had a white
Yeah.
one, he had a sunburst one. I've seen Clapton holding one with friends. I don't know if he
Speaking of
held on to it for that long.
We went to Steven Seagal's house one time with Mark and I.
Oh yeah.
And we
Mark's
were
still in
kind
the
of
chat, so.
pitching a
Mark.
television show, and Steven had a guitar purportedly was owned by Jimi Hendrix, and we looked at some pictures and we tried to match it up, and I believe that guitar is probably right.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you look at the fingerboard and see like a marking
Any
because it was
marks.
just a sunburst,
Kind of wood grain.
Jazzmaster. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, I'll say the thing too with the offsets is that a lot of people don't realize you have to set them up the right way to really get the most out of them. And they're set up differently than a lot of other electric guitars. Like they mimic sort of an arch top in their design. Like if you look even at this
pitch.
guitar,
Yeah.
the whole thing with the string angle and the bridge. And if you don't like shim the neck back properly and your string height's not right, then you're not going to get the most out of
having a
those
guitar
guitars.
set up properly is
It's
very
huge.
important.
Yeah.
Because I
It's
mean,
huge.
you could have the greatest guitar if it's not set up properly. You're not going to really get the full.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
there's a
just
lot of
of
things
what it
on it.
can
You
do.
want to make sure the bar dips right. You want to,
Right.
but that's with every, a lot
And the
of
bridge on those
Yeah.
moves with the bar as well. They're original Jazzmaster bridges. So
And your favorite guitar? I know
Oh,
what the
okay,
your
yeah.
latest favorite guitar
yeah,
is.
so okay. Funny story. Since I was a kid, my favorite guitar was a 335. Like when I was really young, when I first started playing, I was like 335s. That's it, man. And then the last few years, I really discovered a love for Telecasters. Not to jump on the bandwagon, but
That's all right.
like the old, Blackguards, really. Like
Yeah.
from Broadcasters, No Casters, and the early Blackguard Tellies. Every single one of those guitars that I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to play, but being
And-
here
and,
has just been unreal.
Yeah,
And
there's
those
something
guitars
about
are
it.
fantastic. And there's some people that are making replicas. You have a Nash.
I have a
guitar.
Nash that's fantastic.
And Bill Nash
yeah.
makes some really great guitars.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff being made, and a lot of it has to do with who you are, what the sound is that you're going for.
But
the guitar you got-
recently I'm starting to sway back a little bit to my love of the 335 because I just got from Norm a 68 335 with the narrow nut width that belonged actually to Dean Parks, which is really, really cool.
Dean Parks is one of the greatest players. He's a good friend. And
Yeah,
he played
Steely
on
Dan.
the Asia
Mark.
record. I mean, he's played with
He's played
everybody
with
from
everybody.
Aretha Franklin to Barbara Streisand.
But mainly Steely Dan.
David Foster, but Steely Dan, yeah.
Nick and
That
his Steely Dan.
You know what? And by the
I'm
way,
a
if you
big
guys
fan.
aren't doing anything, and I know Mark is not a Steely Dan fan. Sorry, Mark.
Steely Dan,
But-
Mark.
Yeah,
Motley
right.
Crue.
So
What's
check
he
out
saying in there?
check out The Making of Asia, AJA. I think it's a fantastic record, and it's got Dean on there
Yeah.
playing Peg.
It's on in my
It's
car right now.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
Mark, I love you, man, but how do you not like Steely Dan? I mean, it wasn't. They weren't wearing leather coats and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but they were like, they were hip in their own way, and musically, I love their voicings and all that.
Yeah. It's such. We were talking the other day about how their music is so sophisticated, but it doesn't sound jarring. It flows just so smoothly, and it's pleasing to the
Mark's
ear.
spitting his coffee.
Mark
Oh,
is
yeah.
losing
now.
his shit right now.
Not
Sorry,
to
I'll
mention there were
call you.
bed magnets.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think that was the idea.
He needs a drink.
He needs an ice cold Coca-Cola classic.
He
Yeah.
said Steely Dan sucks, Norm.
It's good to know
You
some
know what?
things never change.
Not to go X-rated, but sometimes when things suck, that's not a bad thing.
He's lost the word.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's it for now. We're over.
All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this nonsense, and we love you all. Nick, why don't you just take us
Yeah,
out?
let's
playing
take
out the
us
old
out a little bit. They want a little bit. You want me? Or let's just do a little outie.
I don't know what he's doing.
Oh, Steely Dan, baby. Oh, never mind. He's got it.
Yeah, we'll sit out.
by the way,
Just-
we've
just
got
for
some
Mark.
really great guitar players out of work here, and
Yeah, they wanna.
Nick doesn't always get utilized, but Nick is great. Dylan's great, and of course, everybody knows Michael's great, and my buddy Dylan over there.
It's
What up,
it's
Dylan?
Dylan.
Sorry, that's Brandon. I'm sorry.
Mark says, "Love you guys. Keep rocking and play authentic."
All right.
And Steely Dan is trash.
No.
Oh man,
That was just for you, buddy.
All right, guys.
we love you all. Thanks
Bye
for
now.
watching.
Bye, guys.
Be safe out there.
Later.
Love you guys. Go. Good.